the Black Sea, home to lost tales of ancient mariners that only now are coming into full view.
It's like finding a dinosaur with feathers. And that's how rare it was.
What can a surprising shipwreck reveal about the men who ruled these waters for 1,000 years?
These ships were feeding and maintaining a whole empire.
And it helped turn the empire into one of the greatest ever known.
How does a glint of precious metal reveal a battle to decide the fate of two empires?
This event changed naval warfare all around the world.
And what does a lost U-boat say about Hitler's plans to build his own empire here? 3 mysteries, 3 expeditions, 1 sea of secrets.
The Black Sea is filled with mystery. There's always been warfare, strife, and battles taking place on or near the Black Sea, contesting for that territory. There are so many connections to be made, but there's so little evidence to go from.
Between Europe and Asia, 6 countries crowd around the shores of the Black Sea, with just one small outlet connecting it to the world's oceans. The vessels that plied these waters over 1,000 years ago have long been a mystery. Historians have only a handful of descriptions in ancient texts. Finding an actual shipwreck could change everything.
In 2007, I received an invitation to come and take part of an expedition to the Black Sea. And this was very exciting.
It's really been kind of unexplored. And so only a handful of expeditions have really done surveys looking for shipwrecks in these waters. The Black Sea is where I did my first 2 expeditions, and so it's where I started to learn the process of how we locate ancient shipwrecks.
Archaeologists have long suspected the Black Sea could be hiding a treasure trove of wrecks because of the unusual properties of its water.
Well, the Black Sea chemistry is unique because from about 600 feet all the way down to the very bottom of the Black Sea, there is literally no oxygen in the water in the so-called anoxic layer. Everywhere else, shipwrecks are not preserved, mostly because of a very nasty little sea worm. They eat everything, meaning ships, rope, all of the stuff that you would find on an ancient wooden ship. Usually gone everywhere else except the Black Sea.
No one had ever searched for shipwrecks in the deepest layers of the Black Sea until 2000.
The explorer Robert Ballard set out to explore the bottom of the Black Sea like it had never been done before.
Dr. Ballard is the world-renowned ocean explorer who found Titanic in 1985. On his very first expedition to the Black Sea, no one was ready for what he would find. Ballard's expedition found shipwrecks near a town called Sinop.
They found 3 Sinop shipwrecks right off the bat, A, B, and C. They were in an area of the Black Sea that only partially preserved shipwrecks. And it was only, like all archaeological excavations are, on the last day, at the last minute, that they decided to look in deeper anoxic waters, and that's when they found Sinop D. The team on the ship must have been quite confused. They were looking at multiple vertical timbers sticking out of the mud, one of them quite large. And all of a sudden, the realization must have dawned on them, this is an ancient shipwreck. They saw structural features that had never before been seen intact on an ancient vessel, only in illustrations. Prior to this shipwreck, no other ships had been found in the anoxic layer, perfectly preserved. This meant that archaeologists, for the first time, could look at a shipwreck in its full dimensionality, and now there's nothing we have to guess at. Sinop D was an unprecedented find. It's like finding a dinosaur with feathers. That's how rare it was. But in 2000, all the team could do is look at what they were seeing on the seabed. They didn't know the date of the ship. It could have been an ancient Greek ship, it could have been Roman, it could have been built 200 years ago. They just didn't know. There was an obsession to go back.
How old was the ship? Where was it sailing to? Where was it coming from? A lot of these things were still a mystery.
When Dan and Mike join the 2007 expedition, they hope that new technology will bring new answers.
The 2007 expedition was specifically designed for us to spend a week really investigating this wreck in depth. In these waters that we're exploring, it's way too deep for scuba divers, so we need to use remotely operated vehicles to get down to those depths and get good, high-quality video of these sites.
We had a workhorse, state-of-the-art, remotely operated vehicle named Hercules that could help us explore the wreck in multiple ways and take high-definition video of the entire operation. So I remember this view approaching Sinop D for the first time in 2007 and just being blown away.
And here you have it, the well-preserved wooden shipwreck mast still standing.
About the only one we have. They're very rare.
And you've got a piece of rope still wrapped around the top, which is unheard of.
I saw the mast for the first time, and it was a magic moment for me. It was emotional.
Hercules allows the team to measure every inch of what's left on the sea floor. Before they can figure out the ship's purpose, they'll need to analyze the wreck's size, shape, and design.
What we find is a 45-foot-long ship. A single mast that probably carried a square sail. There's no evidence of decking in the middle of the wreck, so we can assume it's a cargo hold. And lucky for us, there's cargo still on board. Typically, when we stumble upon an ancient shipwreck, the first clue we look for is the cargo. Usually these clay jars called amphoras. Amphoras carried everything. They carried olive oil, they carried fish sauce, they carried wine.
These diagnostic amphoras that can help us put a date on the wreck and tell how old it is. Recovering an artifact from a shipwreck is not a simple process. They use a little sucker that the ROV would put on the amphora to pick it up without damaging it. So they would move it over to a net. Once we have artifacts in these nets, we get it on board as carefully as possible. Watching the ROV pilots handle these artifacts, put them carefully into these baskets, and then send them up to the surface is really nerve-wracking because we don't want them damaged.
The hope is that a close study of the clay jars will establish the age of the shipwreck.
An amphora holds a lot of information about the ancient world. Amphoras can be dated quite precisely because they're everywhere and they're very well studied. So the amphoras can be dated through their physical characteristics, normally the handles and the neck, but also what we call the foot, which is the bottom part. People can compare the new find with the already studied one and establish a quite precise date. So for Sinop, they're fairly small. They are mostly carrot-shaped, and some of them have grooves that go around the entire body of the amphora. And so those are quite distinctive characteristics that give a clear idea of the date when Sinop D was sailing on the Black Sea.
The amphora that we documented were dated to the 5th and 6th centuries AD. We had never before had a shipwreck that is 1,500 years old in its entirety, preserved on the seabed.
The dates mean Sinop D is sailing at the tail end of the Roman Empire. What can it reveal about a new power that's rising to take its place?
Now that we knew what the date of the ship was, it was exciting because Sinop D dates to this pivotal moment in world history.
By the 5th century, the once mighty Roman Empire is crumbling. Except in the east, which breaks away to create the Byzantine Empire. Its capital no longer Rome, but the great city of Constantinople. Modern-day Istanbul.
The choice of Constantinople as the capital is mostly because of a strategic position. It was located in between the two continents, Asia and Europe. It was by the sea, so it could easily transport goods and troops. And so Constantinople at the time of the Byzantine Empire became the largest city in the world and the most wealthy.
Constantinople's wealth depends on Black Sea ports like Sinop. And Sinop D may have played a pivotal role in Byzantine history.
Now we had some fundamental questions that we needed answers for. Among them, how does this ship connect to the history of the Byzantine Empire itself? How did it contribute to the growth of the empire?
One way to answer those questions is to investigate the ship itself.
The wreck was so enticing, but the ship is so deeply buried in sediment. It was giving up its mysteries with such great difficulty. We knew that we would have to start excavating the shipwreck. With Hercules, now we had the capability of removing silt in large volumes and exposing more of its timbers. Ah, yes. All the mud. Look at this Black Sea mud.
Yeah, it's really sticky and almost like jello the way it moves.
I remember just thinking, what a strange seabed. Never seen anything like that before. Removing the silt was a painstaking process. The upper layers, very easy to remove. But as we dug deeper into the mud, the more thick the mud became. And at that point, our work slowed way down. We managed to explore a little bit of some of the planking, but we were not able to dig as deep as we wanted to, unfortunately. We did not find anything that would give away how the ship was constructed. It was a disappointment.
The Black Sea's stubborn mud dashes the expedition's hopes. The secrets of Sinop D remain unknown. Then comes news of a stunning archaeological find, one that reignites the stalled investigation into Sinop D.
Since the discovery of Sinop D in 2000, what have we learned about shipbuilding
We've been really fortunate to find this graveyard of shipwrecks in modern-day Istanbul, ancient Constantinople. The old harbor that served the city was buried in silt over the centuries, and as they were clearing it out to build a subway, they found 37 ancient shipwrecks. Lucky for us, the discoveries in this harbor, called Yenikapı, all date to the Byzantine period. And what you see at Yenikapı is an evolution of Black Sea shipbuilding techniques. Sinop D is right there in the 5th and 6th century, which is about the midpoint between those 37 wrecks that were found. Yenikapı provides all the evidence for the lower part of the ships because their upper works were not preserved. Sinop D provides almost a perfectly preserved example of the top to the middle.
Yeah.
So now we can bring those two together and get a full comprehensive picture for the first time. There was this earlier tradition in which shipwrights lock planks together edge to edge, and then they peg them together so that they can't slide, they can't come apart, and then inserted the skeleton to help stiffen the hull. And then there's this later tradition that switched completely. It's where you build the frames or the ribs of the ship first, and then you plank it all around it to create the shell. Edge joinery is still being used, but it's not on the elaborate scale that we had in the earlier tradition. So the result is cheaper, faster ship construction. Fewer people needed in the shipyard, fewer trained people, fewer skilled people.
And probably less wood too.
Less wood, cheaper, faster.
Yeah.
Because of the dates suggested by those amphoras, we now know that Sinop D fits within this transition between those two ship construction techniques. So now we can piece together all this evidence to finally see what's under the mud and tell the full story of Sinop D's life. Sinop D is a cargo vessel, a merchant ship filled with amphoras. It was likely trading between the very prosperous port city of Sinop and the capital city itself, Constantinople. It might have even been heading to the same harbor where that earlier graveyard of shipwrecks was found at Yenikapı.
The ability to construct ships faster and cheaper is a game changer for the Byzantine Empire. And the secret can be seen in the Sinop D wreck.
With this cheaper way of building ships, a middle class emerges who's able to buy the ship, captain the ship, act as the merchant, and actually create their own wealth. So in this sense, the Sinop D shipwreck is a wealth creator. It's a type of economic engine for the middle class.
I don't think it's a coincidence that a new type of shipbuilding starts to arise at the same time that the Byzantine Empire begins to flourish. These trading ships, like Sinop D, were feeding and maintaining a whole empire. And this is the beginning of a long period of lucrative trading.
This was one of many ships that helped generate the extreme wealth of the empire, and it helped turn the empire into one of the greatest ever known.
Sinop continues to be a key port along the Black Sea, long after the fall of the Byzantines, and its waters conceal other secrets.
Hayatım Sinop'ta geçti.
I have lived in Sinop all my life, and being underwater is my passion.
Karadeniz'i diğer denizlerden
The Black Sea is, as its name suggests, a black, dark sea.
karanlık bir deniz olması, siyah, kara bir deniz.
In other seas,
Diğer
you
deniz,
see a dark shade of blue,
Karadeniz'in bu
but this
siyahlığı,
blackness of the Black Sea is one worth seeing.
koyu bir mavi.
The darkness really fascinates me.
Yaşar Taraksha has been finding relics in Sinop Harbor ever since he started diving as a boy. He's found ancient Roman and Byzantine artifacts and even old cannons. But one discovery proves to be the find of a lifetime.
80'li yılların başında.
In the early 1980s, because I was a professional diver, I was called by a local fisherman to rescue some snagged nets.
Bu kurtarma esnasında
During the dive, I couldn't see anything because of the mud.
çamur nedeniyle hiçbir şey göremiyorum.
But using our hands, we realized the nets were covering an old ship.
Ettik önce.
The curious wreck consumes Yaşar for 40 years. What is this ship, and how did it end up on the seafloor?
Gemi enkazına birkaç kez
I dived the wreck several times and could see it was made of wood.
Bu yüzden modern bir
I knew I wasn't looking at a modern ship.
iyi korunmuştu. Ve
It was well preserved and in shallow water.
geminin çok eski devirde
That meant it couldn't be ancient.
anlamına geliyordu. Bu durum
That left open the possibility that this wreck could be something from the time of the Ottoman Empire.
ihtimalini doğurdu.
During the 1300s, the Ottomans wrest control of the Black Sea from the Byzantines. And here they build an empire that lasts for 6 centuries, creating one of the largest and most feared navies in the world. However, there's almost no archaeological evidence of it.
There should be many shipwrecks in the Black Sea, but we don't have an Ottoman warship. We know so many things about the shipbuilding activities and traditions and conflicts in the Ottoman Empire, but we don't have an evidence to show people that, yes, we got the correct information, or no, the information was not correct. That's why shipwrecks are so important for every Ottoman naval historian.
One reason the empire's warships are missing today has to do with an Ottoman tradition of dismantling and recycling old vessels. Yaşar's find is a big surprise. He believes it's Ottoman. But is it? Dilara comes to Sinop to meet Yaşar.
Merhaba Dilara
And to
Hanım.
investigate the shipwreck he spent decades deciphering.
Dalışta yaptınız.
Evet.
Batıkları, yani
Evet.
filonun batan gemilerinin yerlerini tespit
Aşağı yukarı onun üzerindeyiz. 37 metre derinlikte geliyor.
Onları görebilir miyim bilgisayarınızdan?
Burada geminin
Here you can see the frames of the ship.
meşe ağacı,
They are made from oak.
kemere
The beam is still stable in its original position.
sabittir.
And you can see copper on the hull. Because the hull is surrounded by copper and rot-proof oak, it remained intact over time.
He said that the ship is covered by copper, which is really, really important for me. Why? Because
This confirms the wreck is from the time of the Ottoman Empire.
Ottoman warships relied on copper sheathing, an innovation to protect wooden hulls, until the middle of the 19th century.
And now we have a physical evidence. It really gives a lot of richness to Ottoman naval history.
It's now clear that this is a rare Ottoman warship. So now, Yaşar wants to work out its name. Given its location, he thinks it may be a leftover from one of the most famous battles ever to take place in the Black Sea.
Sinop Deniz Savaşı'nı
I learned about the Battle of Sinop from the oldest diver in Sinop when I was about 15 or 16.
bana burada
He told me about a shocking attack on Ottoman ships anchored in the harbor here.
3000 kişinin yaşadığı
It killed nearly 3,000 people.
saldırıyı anlattı.
The Ottomans face a rival power, the Russian Empire. And on November 30th, 1853, in a bid for Black Sea supremacy, the Russian Navy smashes an Ottoman fleet here in Sinop. The date tallies with the age of Yaşar's find.
Elde ettiğim bilgilerin çoğu
To figure out the identity of the wreck,
hangi batığın hangi gemiye
I turned to historical sources created at the time of the battle.
yazılı kaynaklarda, görsel kaynak. Bu
These sources
kaynaklar
included
neler?
pictures
İşte yapılan savaş esnasında
and a very
yapılan
important chart made by the Russians.
krokiler var. Şimdi bu
This Russian chart details the location of each ship they destroyed.
Şimdi Osmanlı gemileri şurada
Yarım ay,
yarım
hilal
ay şeklinde, tam
şeklinde.
böyle bir yarım ay şeklinde savaş düzeninde ortada
Russian sources suggest the attack on Sinop harbor destroys 15 Ottoman vessels.
Böylece Osmanlı filosu korunması kalıyor
Evet.
diyebiliriz.
ya buradaki sahneyi yabancı yazarlar bir cehennem olarak niteliyorlar.
Rus savaş haritasında
On the Russian battle chart,
bulduğum
I found one record that explained the location of the wreck I found. This is evidence it was a victim of the battle.
bu kanıtı.
What's unexpected is that the wreck is outside the harbor
Batan gemiler
and not in line with most of the other ships that went down that day.
Yaşar examines a memoir written by a survivor of the attack. It helps explain the information on the Russian battle chart. Russian guns had crippled a vessel named the Nesimi Zafir, leaving it afloat but helpless.
Evet, Ruslar bunları zaferlerin anısına yola götürebilmek için yedekleyip çekmişler.
daha doğrusu Sinop'la Gerze arasında bir nokta.
Ama top güverteleri çökmüş, alabandaları dağılmış, çok fazla su yakıyor. Nesimi zafer götürmekten vazgeçiyorlar, olduğu yerde batmasına izin veriyorlar.
Bunun yerine mürettebattan 100 kişiden fazla askeri esir aldılar ve gemiyi batmaya terk ettiler.
The story of Yaşar's find now comes into focus. Because the Nesimi Zafir sank outside the harbor, the Ottomans never tried to salvage it, and the wreck remains untouched for more than 130 years.
Ruslar nereye çekmiş? Nerede 2 gün
We
daha?
found the Nesimi Zafir thanks to fishermen's nets that landed on it.
Yeri de öğrenmiş olduk.
We couldn't have found it otherwise, since it was 120 feet underwater.
Bir nokta.
The Black Sea keeps a tight grip on its secrets. But 300 miles west of Sinop, a 14-year-long quest casts light on a secret Nazi plan for world domination.
People come to me to ask my help to find shipwrecks or identify them. I love the challenge of finding a wreck that's been lost to time, revealing something new about our history. One of my most challenging missions was back in 2006. I was asked to help find a World War II German submarine, the U-23. Incredibly, the person who contacted me was the commander himself, Rudolf Arendt, who was 83 years old. I found this very interesting, one of the most fascinating stories of the submarine warfare. I was lucky that I had the first-hand account of the whole story of U-23 from the horse's mouth. I was determined to find his U-boat and discover exactly what happened to it.
Rudolf Arendt takes Selçuk to the U-23's last known location. He remembers that the sub sank off the Black Sea coast of Ava, 60 miles east of Istanbul. Rudolf came to the Black Sea as part of Hitler's desperate war with the Soviet Union.
Winter 41 hatte die Wehrmacht ungeheure Verluste in Russland. Dann musste der Angriff eingestellt werden und sollte 1942 weitergeführt werden. Und deswegen war eben Hitlers Befehl, 42 müssen U-Boote ins Schwarze Meer, eben um die russische Flotte in ihren Häfen zu halten. Und das hat ja Gott sei Dank auch funktioniert. Aber das Ganze war natürlich viel zu spät im Kriegsverlauf.
By 1944, Germany is losing to the Allies. To stop U-boats from falling into enemy hands, Hitler's admirals issue a dramatic order, telling commanders like Rudolf to sink their own vessels. At the time, he is only 21.
Schlimmer Moment für einen Kommandanten, der sein Boot versenken musste. Denn man hatte, ob man das nun wollte oder nicht, ein sehr inniges Verhältnis zu seinem Boot entwickelt. Denn das Boot war eigentlich für uns die Lebensversicherung. Solange das Boot funktionierte, lebten wir.
Und dann so hinten der runde Strand.
Ja.
Rudolf's memories provide Selçuk with crucial evidence.
When Rudolf Arendt got the order to scuttle his boat, he found a suitable bay and left 25 of his people there. He had told me that after dropping his crew, he took out the submarine north, placed explosives, then go onto a small inflatable raft and rowed back to his people.
The problem is, Rudolf doesn't remember exactly where he scuttled his U-boat, but he does have one invaluable memento.
I was lucky that Rudolf Arendt had made a very nice sketch of the bay seen from his submarine when he was dropping his crew.
Ich habe das aufgezeichnet, eine Erinnerung zu verdeutlichen an die Stelle, wo wir an Land gegangen waren. Und da habe ich dann die Idee gefasst, zeichne doch mal auf, was du damals gesehen hast in der dunklen Nacht und was also möglicherweise heute noch als Anhaltspunkt gelten kann.
We went from bay to bay and eventually found one matching the sketch. If this was the landing point, then we now needed to head north in the same direction Rudolf sailed the U-23 before scuttling.
Selçuk looks for the submarine with a side-scan sonar capable of mapping large areas of the seabed.
We searched all this area north of this bay, but we couldn't find anything. We couldn't find the wreck.
The 2006 survey ends with the final resting place of Rudolf's U-boat still a mystery.
But I assured him that I would be carrying on with the search after he went back home. After 2006, I was there several times, but I never found anything. Years later, I applied to the Navy to look for it with their much more sophisticated sonars. And in 2019, they called me to say that they had found something with their multi-beam sonar in that area where I have been looking for the U-23.
The anomaly found by the Turkish Navy's survey is a huge break in the now nearly 14-year-long hunt for U-23. An ROV descends into the Black Sea for a closer look. Could this finally be Rudolf's missing U-boat?
The wreck has a list of 90 degrees, so it's practically lying on her starboard side. The two periscopes. And then 3 torpedo tubes at the bow. It's a very distinctive shape. Definitely a submarine. And no other submarine in history was ever lost in that area. There's no doubt. Through the dimensions, this is the U-23.
Selçuk concludes the wreck is a class of U-boat called a Type 2B. A smaller model than typical Nazi U-boats, they offered a solution to a major obstacle of the Black Sea attack plan.
Throughout World War II, Turkey, protecting her neutrality, cut off all passage of warships to and from the Black Sea.
Because they can't sail in, Hitler orders that 6 of the smaller type U-boats be dismantled and transported overland from Germany, 2,000 miles, via road and river to the Black Sea. None of the 6 U-boats, however, will ever make it back home. Questions now turn to what state the U-23 is in, 75 years after it went down.
Guten Tag, Herr Arendt. Es ist so.
14 Jahren sehen wir uns wieder.
Ja, genau.
Selçuk shares the news with Rudolf, who's now 96 years old.
Jetzt haben Sie das Boot gefunden.
Ja, und übermorgen werde ich persönlich das Boot tauchen.
Sehr gut.
Und genau untersuchen.
Ja.
Insbesondere die Stellen, wo Sie von innen die Sprengstoffe hingestellt haben.
Die Sprengpatronen haben wir vorne bei den Torpedorohren und die andere kam in den Seerohrschacht und die dritte ganz hinten auf der Munitionskiste. Die Sprengpatronen, das dauert 7 Minuten, bis sie zünden. In diesen 7 Minuten mussten die das Boot verlassen haben und sehen, dass wir von dem Boot etwas wegpaddeln. Deswegen waren wir sehr dicht dran, als das dann explodierte da hinten.
Ja.
Es gab eine riesige Explosion im Heck des Bootes.
Despite setting 3 charges, Rudolf only recalls seeing 1 explosion.
Ich würde mich freuen, wenn ich dann irgendwann noch mal wieder Bilder bekomme von dem Boot.
Das mache ich ganz bestimmt.
Schön, Herr Kolay, dann wünsche ich Ihnen alles, alles Gute, viel Erfolg beim Tauchen.
Vielen Dank.
Selçuk plans to dive the length of the wreck, looking for clues to confirm which of the 3 explosive charges sank the submarine.
We will swim all along the submarine, and then I would like to find where Rudolf Arendt told me he had to put the explosives.
There's no outward sign of damage on the front of the sub, or near the periscope. As Selçuk moves toward the stern.
There's an opening of about 2 feet by 2 feet with the steel sheets bent out. This confirms to me that this is the only explosion out of the 3 that succeeded in sinking the U-23. Having researched the ship for more than 14 years meant a lot to me when I saw the wreck and that it was the U-23. It was an emotional moment for me. Of course, this all will mean a lot more to Rudolf than it means to all of us.
The Black Sea has only just begun to give up its secrets. Many more lie hidden in its inky waters, waiting to be discovered.